So most of us think of ourselves as not just normal, but as the norm. We kind of take for granted that we represent the base model of a normal person. We think most people are fundamentally like ourselves. You know, they have different opinions and that they've reached different conclusions. But beneath the surface, we're all the same. And when those opinions and conclusions seem absolutely ludicrous to us, we say those people have settled on them for some reason. But not many of us spend much time thinking about what that some reason could be. And the problem for the we're all the same people is that it depends on a presupposition that is largely unexamined. And that presupposition is that everybody is developing cognitively and emotionally at the same level at the same time. In fact, development isn't usually a factor for most people when they think about the extreme differences in worldview that they see out there among people. And that's weird, I guess, because nobody denies that cognitive and emotional development is a thing, that it's a real phenomenon. Even, you know, a teenager is conscious of the difference in maturity between herself and a younger sibling, right? So it's intuitive. So they'll say, you know, you're so immature, you know, that's the favorite, most devastating retort that a teenager can deploy in response to a bothersome preteen brother or sister. You're so immature. So they know that. There's something obvious to people about the different stages of intellectual, cognitive, emotional, psychological development that people go through. Weirdly, on the other side of puberty, that kind of disappears. People suddenly stop talking about it. In fact, people get very kind of antsy around the idea of development when you talk about people kind of post-puberty. You know, I guess that's understandable in a certain way. It's kind of like lame. It's kind of, you know, well, I don't want to think of be the kind of person who thinks of some people as being more developed and less developed. I don't want to think that way. Which, you know, is kind of stupid. It's I get it, but it's kind of stupid because, okay, I don't want to think that way. However, is that true? Is that actually something that's happening that we can kind of identify? And I think it is true, and I think it is something that we can identify. The idea that everybody develops equally in this way, in psychologically, in this cognitive consciousness, I guess, kind of way. I don't think when that's examined that anybody would say that it's true. People can develop up to a certain point, and then that's it. They don't go further than that. And I think that's what we're seeing in our culture now, that we're seeing, you know, when I look around Canada, when you interact with people online, I think what you're seeing is people who matured, and maturity and development, it's the same thing. It's the same word. They're synonymous, right? Maturity and development. And I think what we see is people who have matured up to a certain level, and then that's it. And a lot of people have matured up to the level, cognitively, emotionally, of an adolescent. There's an idea in developmental psychology and thinking that I got from people like Ken Wilber, that your culture kind of acts like a magnet. It pulls you up to the average, like the level that you need to be to function successfully in life. Just the average, right? And a lot of times, as a magnet, it can go the other way as well. That if you go beyond that sort of average level, it tries to pull you down. It pulls you back into the norm, right? And I think that's what we're seeing with a lot of people in my country and in Canada now, is that a lot of adults kind of got up to around the developmental stage of adolescence, where you're kind of at the level where you can, you understand how to hold a job, you understand the rules of obeying the laws, and how to behave in public, and you could even have children. You not necessarily be good at parenting, but you can do that. And then they stop there. And when that adolescent level of development, when that adolescent worldview is carried on and carried over into adulthood, it gets applied to adult concerns, adult issues, adult subjects. So it gets applied to things like politics. So you get people who their conception of politics is exactly the same conception of the teenage girl thinking everybody has to like the same boy band that I like, or they're idiots, right? And you see that all of the time. If you're on X, formerly Twitter, you see this constantly. You see this more than you see the opposite of that. People who can actually sort of think about their own perspective in some kind of reasonably objective way. You can, when you're talking to somebody who isn't simply representing representing some form of groupthink. Well, I've adopted this opinion because I think this is the opinion all the cool kids have. This is, if you're want to think of yourself as smart, then you think this. And that's what's happened in adulthood in my country, for sure, and I've seen it in other countries, where this adolescent level of thinking, of cognitive development, where you associate holding certain opinions with being very smart and being very sophisticated. Like this, these are what all the people who you want to be associated with think. That has replaced actual insight and actual wisdom and actual knowledge and critical thinking among the adult community, which is a tragedy. It is a catastrophe that we have a vast swath of the adult population who evaluate incredibly serious issues the way 14-year-old people associate or interpret trivial issues.
This is going to get ugly. Bye.